bear fur. That's what we're here to talk about today. What's up, everybody? My name is Ryan Cook, and today we are going to talk about bear fur. I have been in search of perfecting bear fur for the last 14 years of my life. Have I done it? No. Will I ever? I don't know, but we are going to talk about it today. I'm going to show you some patterns, I'm going to show you some trick tips, and I'm going to talk about my thoughts on what we do, how we do it, and what I do with the bar, what I do with the tip, and what I do with, to create different patterns, different structures, and we're just gonna keep on searching for the perfect bear fur. Now, if you have a technique that I don't know about, please leave it in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe. I don't know. If you're watching this video, you're into carving. That's what my demographic is. And what we're going to start focusing on more is lessons, tutorials. I'm doing lots of quick shorts, as you can see. But I'm going to start now that I got this cool mic. Big thanks to Jordy Johnson. He wants me and Uncle Kevin to do a video on it. But it's really cool because now I can walk around, talk, and you guys can hear me. So what I like to use is, everybody knows that I like the 2511 as one of my favorite saws. It's the lightest saw there is on the market. It's perfect for detailing. This is a 10-inch Canon dime tip bar. I prefer an 8. My oiler on my one just went, so right now I'm kind of, learning and exploring, because that's exactly what we do every time we carve. We're always in constant learning, constant exploring, and trying new things. And that's one thing that's going to help you get better as you progress more and more and more. And if you're just getting started carving, we're gonna go over some of the beginning details, so bear with me. At the beginning, we're gonna talk about just kind of the way that I approach the tip and the way I approach doing my furring to, we're gonna get into a little more technical end of things at the end of it, where we'll show kind of like some of my ideas of what I think work and what I think seem to be standing out nice or working. And then also talk about different carvers, because that's kind of another thing that I really like to do, and something that I think all of you guys should do is definitely look at everyone. Don't ever be scared to just add someone on Facebook that you like or someone you admire. Or follow their pages. That's the best way to do me. I don't really use my personal one. There's nothing good on that, and but that the thing is you can always pick up little things from people. Like when I look at people's Facebook pages, I'm always going oh, I wonder how he did that. Like, what tool did he use to create that texture, or what tool did he do to finish that piece off the way it was? So when you're doing these kind of like long bear fur, you're using your chainsaw, you're really kind of getting to know your saw. A lot of the times on these pieces, you're gonna find, and I find myself, I'm doing 20 different textures that I didn't even mean to do. You're going on one side here and you're pulling with the bar to the next side, where all of a sudden using the bar tip on a different angle and a different thing. I'm gonna put my glasses on, and I'm not gonna wear a mask right now just because I wanna be able to talk clear. So I'm gonna show you what I like to do. So for if you've just gotten started carving, or you're just getting started carving and you wanna try doing a bear, but you wanna kind of push it. I always remember a judge, her name was Mary Ann Blanche, I think her last name was. She was really nice. She's a great carver, she's in Ontario. She one time told me to soften things, and that really kind of resonated for me in my head. It's simple little one-liners that people will say to you over the years that will really help you develop as a carver. Let's just think about what we're gonna do at the very beginning. So you're a beginning carver, let's get into it, all right? You wanna talk about the tip of the bar. Number one, get yourself a carving bar. Canon are my bars. That's who I run with. We got them at sawvalley.com. The 12-inch dime tip is your best for overall everything. If you got one saw with one bar on it that's like a mid-range saw, get a 12-inch dime tip, because you can texture, you can block, you can carve, you can do it all. Once you start having more stuff, you want smaller ones. I prefer the 8s. there's a 10, and pretty soon, I don't know what the bar is going to be called. I'm hoping they call it the Saw Valley, the Cannon Saw Valley bar, or the Ryan Cook's, or actually maybe the Ryan Cook bar, who knows. But we're coming out with like a smaller one. It's going to be mint. Now, your tip. We've talked about it before. There's lots of videos I've talked about the tip. When I'm carving on each side, I'm using either side of the tip, okay? So like if I'm on this side, I'm using the right side of the tip and I'm pulling. I'm gonna use this side of the tooth primarily to drag, to kind of texture. Just those little simple lines. Now that's kind of like, you know, a standard kind of pull of a fur. And what I think about when I'm doing bear fur is how does the fur lay? I've always got my pictures here where I'm looking how the fur is pulling down, how it's sitting on the muscles. Like it's like you got your muscle here. Is it gonna twist? Is it gonna go off the tricep, the bicep? I'm constantly thinking about which way to pull it. Then, how much are they paying? Are we really doing anatomy? Are we really thinking about the shoulder, the bicep, the tricep, the arms, the wrist? Or are we just doing a straight arm bear? I factor all these little things into budget, detail, time, and overall look, you know, and what we're going for. And the one thing that I think is very important is consistency of finish. You want to make sure that you're consistent in, if you're going to do it here, do it everywhere. If you're going to do Dremel, make sure that your Dremel has your certain parts, your face, your nose, everything that you do, you're going to make sure to be consistent in your finishing. That's number one, because then, you know, you're gonna have a consistent finish, which means it's gonna look right. Now, that being said, make sure that you're consistent in, if you're doing pulling on the right side here, when you go to the left side, you switch sides of the tip. Now, you can use this part, the top and the bottom. And what I mean by that is you can use the top part kind of pull off the tip here, you know what I mean? So now you can see that we're doing it like that, or you can drag it. You're kind of dragging the tooth, or, you know, if you're gonna, you can go like this, you can go really hard on the top of the tooth. The color change because it's going with the grain. It's actually kind of sanding it at the same time. It's not ripping it. So when you're ripping, it kind of has to be burnt and sand and you get more fluffy. But when you get the right tone, or if you get the right you know, part of the tooth, it's actually going to kind of get rid of those furs. So I'm always open to trying different things, and sometimes I'll switch. Sometimes I'll do, you know, like the tummy. I've been watching, you know, carvers who will pull, and they'll do kind of like a... And it's just kind of pulling, giving the idea of fur, even though the chain is going fast enough that it will show little fur blades, like kind of like little marks of the tooth, which you can then kind of, you know, it shows that there's kind of like fur. So now we can check this out. That this is more like dragging. You see how there's a little bit of the fur right there, and then that's kind of dragging, where this is more pulling. You're dragging across. It's kind of giving the idea of the texture, but then here you've got the pulling. And over here, I just kind of did the same where I was just kind of going up and down. Like I have my saw and I'm just kind of like, just ever so slightly. Here, we'll set it up and we'll do it. There we go. I just kind of under here. You see how I'm doing that with the tip? I'm running it along the top of the tip to kind of push in the idea that this is going to be the fur and it's ending in the arm. And it kind of gives it a nice shadow and, you know, kind of looks like there's the end of hanging fur, which I find to be very nice and quite effective. And then you can come in underneath. So you can see there that what I'm doing is I'm using it as like my pencil and my shaper. I try to soften the things as best I can. Like I was saying, when you're softening, you're taking away the edges, right? You always start, and I was looking at some of my carvings from like 14 years ago when I first started on saw dogs. Everything was square. Luckily, I learned how to do a bear with Mark Colt, then he cut it in half. Go back and watch that on Saw Dogs, pretty funny. I think it's on Amazon Prime. But I was able to learn from 18 of the best in the world. I have a very weird, way of coming about chainsaw carving, but a lot of you right now are probably just learning from watching these videos. So my advice to you is to, talk to people, get your head around things, and then try to start softening you want to soften your pieces. Like you want there to be, if you like that folky, folk art style square bear with the happy smiley face, it works. It sells, it's great. And if you're starting to progress, you want to push yourself further and further, you want to start shaping. Now I use my tip to do a lot of that shaping as I'm sculpting and carving. This will all burn and sand out really nicely. And it has like the small, what I imagine each hair to be. And that's another thing too. If you're doing big scale stuff, imagine you have to do bigger chunks of fur, longer strokes to create the idea of the hair coming from his body. But if you're doing smaller bears, you don't need those big dramatic texture changes unless that's your style. Like you look at a great carver like Ken Packey. He has a very dramatic style of texture. He's one of my favorite carvers. I coming up and learning and watching him and meeting him and carving with him was so much fun because his textures were just some of the best. And he's got his own style, just like Tommy Craig's does, another guy who I just absolutely adore. And Kadama, if you look at Kadama's stuff right now, he's just on fire, always been, always will be. And so have all those guys. And those guys are really inspirational to me for textures because I look at carvers all the time. The new ones, all of you, everybody, a lot of people send me stuff and I look at it, but you'll see, there's so many different variations. And when we're searching and trying to perfect bear fur, you're never going to do it. That's the point of this. We never will. We'll never get it, but we'll strive for it. And that's what makes you not go crazy, especially when you're doing bears for a living, You know, if you're on the West Coast or the East Coast and bears are predominant for carvers, a lot of people will love bears. And for me, I'm always trying to make every carving better. And when I'm doing that, I am really, really trying to make sure that when I'm doing that, I am trying to make it better every time, you know? And the best place to start is the back. The reason I start at the back is because you can kind of play around. Like here I was playing, I had this thing and I'm just kind of floating the idea of the tip of my bar. I can see what I've done. It's the tip of my bar kind of dragging and floating here. But if you look closely here, let me make sure the camera's there. If you look close here, we'll bring it in actually. If you look close here, this doesn't make sense, right? The fur wouldn't just all of a sudden be a high point to a low point. It's got to come from the inside. So that's why I try to make it like this, where it's at least straight down and you can kind of like punch in at certain points, and then you can kind of see like at least the idea that it's coming from a certain spot, where here it just looks hokey. So I see that for that won't work for me, and this is a little bit better. You know, you kind of have that diamond shape where it's more of my style of what I've always done. Now I can easily go this side on the right side, or you can kind of go straight up and down and keep it. It works, but it would work better on the back side, on this side. So you kind of want to be able to letting the saw do the work too, right? Like for me, I think that's a really important thing, is to let the saw do the work, because that's what it's there for. I'm running the saw at about half speed. Obviously you guys see that there's no chain brake. It's just the way I like to do it. I definitely, you know, Echo doesn't want me doing that, but personally when you're in really close, I just don't use it. So, but if you're just getting started, always keep your tools the same. Make sure you're wearing the proper safety equipment, and obviously, like, don't hold me responsible for anything you do. You're just taking some advice that I'm giving you here, and that's it. So, you know, in doing this, you just want to try to be consistent. Now, when you're starting to kind of get a little more, let's say, I don't know, if we're gonna do some more advanced stuff, what I would suggest you do is now to start thinking about how the hair pulls. You wanna pull it? What I'm doing now is I'm starting to use more of my tooth, more of the top of the tip of the bar, and I'm driving it in so I know it's gonna look like it's falling. It will sand out and create a nice texture, but what I'm doing is kind of pushing and doing like almost like very sharp V's, because it's gonna look like it's layered on top of it. That's what you want to create. That's what the intention is, because fur lays on top of each other, right? So when I'm starting to kind of do that, and as you start to progress more, you start to use like all the tip. You're pushing in, you're getting those long strands. You want to make it delete. You got an overcut there. start to use all variations of my tip, because that's what I think is a really, really good way to, you know, really punch in furs. I mean, you can do anything. You can drag, you can push, you can pull, you can use all of these different things and be creative. Like, nothing's perfect. If you want to make it like, you know, crazy, do that. But what I do think is one of my, like, I don't know, one of my pet peeves on like someone's carving is when I see, you know, if you go down here and then you got this bear here and then you just see like inconsistencies. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of what I think, to me, is one of the biggest bothers of this whole thing. Now, you guys have been here for a long time. We've talked about a lot of stuff. I think it's time to start wrapping it up. But I will say that the one thing in search of bear fur is that you're never, ever going to get it perfect. And maybe you will. Maybe there's this perfect thing, but you have to remember that it's art, it's fun, and it's exploring. And have fun doing it. Fail. Enjoy failing. Start the bear. If the one side sucks and you finally found something that's working for you, maybe it's the pulling, maybe it's the V, maybe it's dragging the tip across, like kind of the whole thing. Jeff Moore does that. Stunning. He has a wicked style of doing bears. And same with Hoppy Quick. If you look up Hoppy Quick and Jeff, those guys just like blow my mind with bears. And their textures also. So if you want to, you know, look at the pictures, try to figure out what they're doing, then go from there and enjoy the search of the perfect texture for bears, because we forever will always be trying to do it. Nothing will ever be perfect. You can even do it not so textured. You can do just a couple accents and sand it, you know? You don't need crazy textures. You can make it smooth with highlights and accents and different ways, depending on what tools you have, depending on if you want it clean, if you want that texture. I love texture. I love shadow, contrast. I love it. Like, that's my style. I don't know if I have a style. I guess I do at this point, but I wouldn't know it. But at that same time, that's what I've loved, because I've admired others and tried to make little pieces of them part of me. And I think that's what you need to do, is find your style and really try to figure out what you love, what you like about the person. And then, you know, if you want, sure, take a picture of their carving and look at it. Try to figure out what they did. But don't necessarily just copy, like, okay, or use it as a reference. Like, I never use a person's carving as a reference. Like, oh, I'm gonna do this, but I gotta do that. If I ever am looking at a carving, or if you ever see a piece of someone's in the background of like a picture of a carving, I'm literally looking for like one personal thing, like one little thing, like how he maybe did that texture, what they did to dry brush, how they created the contrast, what they did with the painting. Or, and then I always do real pictures, because real pictures don't lie. Artists always try, and the second an artist tries, they get it wrong. And then if you're copying that person, you're getting it more wrong than they got it wrong before you. You know, it's a really interesting thing, but there is great things you can do when you are looking at someone's work, but at the same time, real pictures, real angles, especially if you have an actual, like, if you can go and take a picture of a bear at a zoo, or if you're carving a dog and you want to take a picture, get tons of different angles. Upside, there's so many different things that you'll see on different angles when you look at the picture. And that's what Pete Ryan would tell me, you know, R.I.P. Pete, he was the shit. And he always would tell me, look at the picture, look at the picture, look at the picture. And we were filming Carver Kings, and I remember it to the day. We were doing this eagle, the big eagle with the nest and the babies and stuff. And it was off camera, but I remember just looking at the picture and then starting to see the angles and the changes of like the plane changes, like of the muscle pattern of in the picture. And then that changed everything for me. So hopefully you can start to do that too. It takes time. You know, you got to look at it, imagine the angle it's going on from the picture you're looking at, and then try to sculpt that and try to carve that. And then as things go, you start to soften. We're bringing it back now. You see what we're doing here? You start to soften. You can go back to like making things simple but effective. So you can do as many different furs as you want. I've showed you quite a few different furs here. So if you're still here, you like this video, awesome. And thank you to all the members who watch my videos and support my channel. I'm terrible at doing it, but I know that like a lot of you who are members actually just do it to help, you know, pay for the videos, pay for the equipment, and the time editing, because realistically, you know, YouTube's not a big money maker. But I'm gonna start doing some more tutorials. So if you guys have any questions or anything you want to see, leave it in the comments and I'll get to it. What I am gonna for sure do is you know, a sponsor me video. Everybody was asking me how you get sponsored. There's gonna be one of those coming out soon. And we're gonna go through the tools. We're gonna go through the toolbox. We're gonna start dissecting what tools, what saber-tooth burrs I use, what Makita die grinders I'm using. We're gonna start talking more about tools and using the tools and getting familiar with them, and then showing you different burrs and bits so you don't have to just buy them. SawValley.com is gonna be SawValleyTools.com soon. And it's got lots of cannon bars on it. I've got lots of 12s, some 14s, some 16s, and some 20-inch arbors. And then I've got a ton of saber-tooth stuff. I haven't got it on the website yet, but if anybody needs any burrs, you can send me a picture of them on Instagram or Facebook, at Ryan Cook Carvin, and I can show you what I got. I basically bought everything I use. So a lot of orange, a lot of green, and a lot of green burrs, and then dovetails, flames, Dremel, and die grinders, and happy to ship them to anyone in Canada. And ideally, I mean, right now with everything going on, probably best if you are American to buy in America, then you don't have to pay the tariffs. Not sure if that's going to affect us at all. This isn't political shit, so I don't care. But if you order it, I'll ship it to you. I don't know what that'll be if it's in America, but I am happy to help out anybody and everybody, because that's what it is, man. Carving doesn't know anything other than love. And that's what I think carving is. There's no politics and there's no bullshit in carving. It's just art, and that's what we all are, and we're all artists, and we all work together no matter who you are, where you are, and where you're from, because all we're doing is trying to get better. And hopefully this video helped you with furring and pushing the next time. And hopefully you'll remember one thing from this video. If you got to watch it again, but just have fun. Rip it up. Later.